welcome to GCSE Product Design Design Influences number 5, Patents and Copyright. So, first thing you need to get into your heads is what is property. Okay, well, property is anything owned, and so if you have the right to something because you've either bought it yourself, or it was given it to you, or it might have come into your possession by another way. Now, we often think of possessions as tangible items, okay, whether that be our computers, our phones, our shoes, our clothes, and we very often think of the word property as just meaning house, mainly because that's usually the most expensive item you'll ever buy in your lives. So, why don't people just take your property? Well, if they do, they'll end up in prison or fined, so there are laws to stop people from taking stuff. But very often there's a lot of social pressure. You won't necessarily get dragged off to prison just for taking somebody's pencil case. However, there's a lot of social pressure to make sure that you do the right thing. Now, in terms of intellectual property are your ideas, okay? And just because they're not actually tangible, because they only exist in your head, doesn't mean that you don't actually own it. So what stops people from stealing your intellectual property? Well, there are things called patents, trademarks, and copyright. Those three things that stop people from stealing your intellectual property. Now, a patent is something that protects a person or a company that invents a new product. So, for example, if you invented a new type of pen, you should patent your design. And on the right here is an example of what you would have to put together for a patent. You would have to identify everything about your design which is unique or new. And once you've done that, that should prevent anyone or another company from stealing your idea, manufacturing it, and then making money for themselves. To be granted a patent, an invention must be new, it must be inventive, and it must be capable of being made. So no sort of anti-gravity belts, okay, science fiction stuff. It has to be capable of being made. So if you remember the Wallace and Gromit program where he made the wrong trousers, that would be granted a patent because it's new, it's inventive, and it's capable of being made. However, you can't get patents for any scientific or mathematical formulas. You can't patent a book, a play, music, or any kind of artistic work. You can't patent a way of playing a game. And you can't patent presentation of information like slideshows and stuff like that. And you can't patent a new animal or plant variety that you've discovered. Trademarks are basically symbols or signs that identify your product or your service. So a trademark can be words or pictures or a combination of both. In other words, a logo. And again, you have to pay a fee to something called the IPO, or the Intellectual Property Office, and they decide whether or not your logo can be regarded as a protected trademark. Any trademark you do use, though, has to be distinctive, and it must distinguish your goods from other traders and manufacturers. Okay, so you may come across this symbol over here, the R in a circle. What that means is, obviously, say a company like Adidas and Nike, they both make jumpers and shorts. They can't patent jumpers and shorts, but what they can do is they can put their logo on a jumper to say, well, look, this is our jumper. Okay? Now, trademarks prevent others from using a similar mark, but they don't prevent others from making the same goods. That's why you can come across cheap knockoffs, counterfeit goods. Sometimes they're very, very bad, like these examples, but a lot of the time nowadays they're very, very good. Okay, if you think of a set of Beats headphones that you can pick up from a Portuguese beach for about 10 quid when they actually cost about £200 in real life. Thirdly, okay, so copyright. Copyright is something that protects people, companies, and organizations that produce certain creative and artistic work. So that might be books, CDs, plays, films, okay? And an author can claim copyright protection for these. And in order to claim it, again, you have to prove that the work that you're protecting is completely your own. So for example, down here in the right here, Justin Bieber got into trouble because he had a tattoo of an artwork of Banksy, and of course that's an actual sort of copyrighted image that Banksy uses. The last little point we'll make is just about copyright law. Obviously it's very difficult to enforce copyright because there's so many opportunities for people to get hold of stuff, especially using the internet. If you use torrent sites like Pirate Bay or ExtraTorrent, every time you download a particular track or a film or a TV show, you are in fact breaking the law, you are committing a crime. But as you can see by the number of torrent sites that there are, it's very, very difficult to enforce. Okay, so you should be in a position now to answer the question in your question booklets. First part of the question is not really related to this topic, but it's the way you need to practice your requirements, your design feature questions. Okay, so there's a pair of trainers there. So the first thing it's going to ask you to do is state 3 design features of training shoes. So what do training shoes have to do? What must they have in order to function as training shoes? And then onto the related question. So 2 reasons why companies use logos. Okay, so you might look back at your notes there and think, why would a company like Adidas use a logo or a trademark on their product? There'll be 2 reasons why they do that. And then the last part of the question, can you explain how a designer could protect their design, okay, against cheap imitation? So if you actually came up with a design for a new set of headphones, what have you got in your sort of armory to protect yourself against people ripping you off? Thanks for listening. Good luck.